JD was hitting on you? Tell us about JD.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's definitely happened once or twice.
You ended single-handedly the intern beauty
Not
pageant.
single-handedly. I met Jimmy Fallon in the same fashion, and I don't know if he was like hungover or something, but he was just like not in the mood.
Hello there, my YouTube members. Thank you for becoming a member, and today you're getting a special members-only video. There's going to be a few of these coming here lately, so I got a new interview hopefully coming your way next week, but want to post one here with former intern Dara Pollock. She's got some good stories. Let's get to that interview right now with Dara. Let's say hello. Hello, Dara.
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me. I didn't know I was the first intern to be interviewed. That's exciting. I'm going to try to set the bar in the middle. I'm like, not going to set it too high. I want to say honestly, it's kind of crazy. I feel like it was 2006 or 2007. I don't even remember exactly. That's how bad my memory is, but it was around there. Let's just say that.
How does one at that time? I guess they're not doing internships. It seems like they're not in the studio. How does one get that? Tell us. And you wrote a pretty good blog about this with a lot of information. So we'll direct people there and to your podcast and everything. But just early on, how does one end up getting it? It feels like it's a job everyone wants.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I had listened. I'd been a fan for a long time, and my best friend and I always would listen to Howard Stern on the way to school, like driving to high school, we would listen to Howard Stern. So we were fans, and my friend was like, you should apply. They're like looking for interns. I heard something on, I don't know where he heard it, but I was like, they're not going to pick me. Like, come on, whatever. That's crazy. There's probably a million people applying for this. And he was like, just do it, and basically dared me to apply. And so I was like, whatever, what could it hurt, And so I applied online, and it felt like, again, my memory is not the best in my age, but I want to say it was like the next day I got a call from Tracy asking me to come in for a interview, and the rest is history.
What's the interview like? How does and were you in broadcast? Like, were you studying communications? I know this is 20 years ago almost, so we're really digging here, but
wild stuff. I know. Hence why my memory is spotty when it comes to this. So forgive me. But no, I did not study broadcast. I'll give you the abridged version of my history, but I was a dancer. I wanted to be like on Broadway one day. I always wanted to be like on the stage. And when I was 17, I got hit by a car and I almost lost my leg from the knee down. So this was like right before all my dance auditions, basically all my, going to college for dancing. So I had to completely pivot everything. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was laid up in the hospital for like a month, and then I was homeschooled for half my senior year after that. And I watched like Food Network all the time. I found it like cathartic watching people cook. And so I started my blog afterwards, and I kind of went in the direction of media in general. Like I liked entertainment. I just didn't know exactly what that meant. So I studied advertising and marketing communications. And my internships were just all over the place because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I was always attracted to like media, if that helps at all.
So you get there, what do you do? Like, what's the first few days like? I mean, I just remember I had internships at like Channel 5 in St. Louis, and I was like, there's Mike Bush. So now you're in the Stern universe. What is it like? You sit down in a computer and give me those first few days.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first few days just like sitting at a computer, not really knowing what I was supposed to do. And they were like, oh, well, you can answer phones, I guess. And I was like, okay, great. And then that basically became the bulk of what I did, was answering the phones. I know there was other stuff that we did with like organizing files, like importing things from like one drive to another. There was a lot of like back end stuff like that, but that wasn't, what I remember as the fun stuff. The like phone calls was probably the most fun. Also, I used to get breakfast for like Howard and Artie sometimes, pretty regularly actually, if my memory serves. And I used to also hand out like talent releases. I did, basic stuff like that. But that was the first few days, was like phones basically.
Intern work. Tell me, all right, so we'll get into the breakfast thing because that's funny. You tell that story in your blog. But just the phone calls. I've always been interested, like, I think way, way back in the day, early 90s, I probably tried to call in. I'm like, I want to get on the show. So I'm sure this phone is ringing nonstop. And are you screening and saying, all right, this is a good call? Or do you just say, hold on, what do you want to talk to Howard about? And then just type it on a screen? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I wasn't, at least again in my memory, I don't remember being the person, like I remember Will being the person that was like, what do you want to talk to Howard about? Like that was actually, I think, the exact phrase that he used. But I found myself screening, yes, and I would tell Will and Jason like who was on hold, because a lot of times like Sour Shoes, for instance, would call up, and I think I wrote about this in my blog too, and he would be a baby that day, and he would just be like goo, goo, like making these noises, and I would be like, okay, I don't have time for this, and I would just put it down. I wouldn't necessarily put him like hang up on him, but he would just be going, and I'd be like, okay, I like put him on hold basically. So yeah, I like screened in that sense, but I wasn't like the important person who got to decide who actually talks to Howard.
But you were like the first line of defense. So like you hear somebody and you're kind of producing at that point. Like I don't even know if this person should be on the show, but that's kind of how it went, right? You're like okay, Henry Hill was a famous person you mentioned in your.
That was so fun.
But I mean, is the phone just ringing off the hook? Like you put the phone down and then here's another, and they're always callers, right? They're always like, hey, I want to talk about my wife who's, wants to come down and,
Yeah, so it wasn't just me. That was the thing, because you're right. It rings pretty much off the hook. There were other interns, excuse me, answering the phones as well. So it's like, yeah, it was pretty nonstop, but like there were other people who were helping out in that department. So it never felt like, and because there were such characters, it never felt overwhelming. You know what I mean? I'm not a phone person, so I think it helped me with that skill.
It's fun. It's fun. I know this is probably ridiculous that I keep asking you about these phone calls, but I'm just always interested in how like someone gets on the air. So that's some interesting thing there. The breakfast thing. I mean, Howard is famous for being like meticulous, and only Grillo was bringing up a potato, and then KC. Yep. So this is a big job. I mean, did you understand by it being a listener that this is a big job?
Yeah, I you know what's weird is I don't remember thinking that. And like I said, I didn't do it all the time. I think I got for Artie more so than Howard, but it did happen with Howard a few times. So I didn't really know that it was as serious of a thing until after the internship. Like no one really seemed to stress that. Now I think back and I'm like, did they do it almost as a hazing in hopes that I would mess it up? Like now I don't know. But all worked out.
Yeah, and we in Artie's breakfast, I mean, that you had to was that going to McDonald's and spending $40 at that point?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like that. But I mean, it was not healthy from what I remember. It was like eggs and bacon, a pretty standard American breakfast, because there was like a deli right downstairs that I used to get it from. That much I remember. So yeah.
Now, as a regular person, do you realize Artie is completely effed up at this point? I mean, he's starting to fall asleep at this point, because on the air, everyone they're making bits of it. I mean, back in the room, are you guys like, God, he's so effed up?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we knew that kind of going into it. I mean, I did, but I loved Artie. Like, he was so nice and so funny. Like, I have nothing bad to say. I think it's more just like, it's a shame what happened to him, I feel like, because he's so talented, and it didn't have to go that way. You know what I mean? But it's tough.
Yeah, no, hopefully he's doing well. We'll find out at some point, maybe here sooner or later. Tell me about the room then. So you're in the room, there's a room of interns, but then I think you said Jason and Will are in this room at this point. Just give me a layout of the room and just what you're hearing being said, from those guys. And I know it's called the bullpen. I remember working in a bullpen myself. But just that kind of, because it gives you a sense of what's going on behind the scenes to get the show the way it is. Like now it's way different, obviously, but just back then.
Yeah, so the room is kind of like you would walk, well, first when I would walk into the like serious area there, I was like straight and then a left and then another right, basically. And it was like a long kind of room, I would say like this. And then we sat near the phones, like on, I guess, again, if you're looking at it, I was like here. And then Will and Jason sat here. So if I was ever like doing anything, like, answering the phones, I'd turn this way and be like, Will or Jason, tell them who's on the phone, yada, yada. And then, I mean, it was usually pretty quiet at first because it's so early in the morning. I think like everybody's just kind of like getting their coffee, getting settled, I mean, it was literally dark outside when we would arrive. So it was always pretty quiet. And then, just like random things sometimes would pop up, but like, it was always entertaining. Can't take that away.
So, I mean, amazing fights that happened back there with Sal and Richard, and then Will and Gary, or Jason and Gary, anybody. You're kind of in the front row to see this before it goes on the air. I mean,
Yeah.
Is it like, are you kind of in this starstruck type thing where you're like, oh, I'm getting to hear this stuff before it goes on the air? You're like, yeah, I'm just trying to get a damn credit.
Yeah, no, I was not. I mean, first of all, I'm the type who like will love to listen to that sort of drama, but I never want to get involved. So I'm just like listening, but I truthfully don't remember any specifics. Like if you were to ask me like what did they say? I don't remember. If this had been not 20 years ago, maybe I would remember because like I said, I love some good tea, but I don't remember specifically. But I don't really get starstruck. I was a little starstruck when I met Howard, but I'm usually able to maintain composure.
Well, and then you dealt with the releases, I think you said. So you got to meet some of the Adam Levine from
Yep.
Maroon 5 you mentioned in your blog. Just
Yep.
that had to be, I mean, it's just cool. And you said he was incredibly cool. Names of other
Oh,
people and other stories that you, if you're sitting around the campfire, have a few drinks, like, oh, you know, it was great. It was when Dave Grohl, told me to, I don't know,
yep.
whatever.
Oh, I wish. I was like, it's like one of my favorite bands is Foo Fighters. Did not meet him. But I do remember what do you call it? Adam Levine, yeah, he was so nice. Like stuck out his hand, like shook my hand, introduced me to his whole team as if they care, and I was like, can I get you anything? And he was just like, no, we're good, we're good. And I was like, okay, amazing. And then I always tell the story of when I met Jimmy Fallon in the same fashion. And I don't know if he was like hungover or something, but he was just like not in the mood. It seemed like he just was like head down, like took the release and just like was very, yeah, it didn't look like a good morning for him. That's all I'll say. But everybody else I met was pretty nice. I can't remember any other standouts other than those two stories.
There's many stories of Gary Baba Booey being very indifferent to the interns or anybody lower than him. Give us a bad Baba
Yeah.
Booey story.
I don't think I have one. I'm really sorry. I know that I am partially here to give some dirt, but I don't remember any specific interactions. I have a photo with him on my blog. Like I know I asked him to take a photo and he was like, fine. Obviously he wasn't thrilled about it, but truthfully, I just didn't have any real like interactions with him to speak to that.
Jason
Yeah.
and Will, they have risen through the chains and are pretty big deal. I mean, I think Will is head writer and now Jason is
Yeah.
executive producer. Did you get the sense that that's where they wanted to go? Like they had that in them, or were they trying to rise? I mean, again, this is 20 years ago, but we remember them
Yeah.
kind of showing up as kids and like, who are these
Oh.
guys? And now they're sort of the big deals on the show.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when I think about just in general. I mean, them specifically, I would say yes, you could tell that they wanted to rise up in the show, but I feel like that's a lot of people there. I mean, it's such a family over there. They stay for such a long time if they can, obviously. I mean, JD, he's been there literally forever. And same, I guess, yeah, with Will and Jason. I just it's not like I ever spoke to them about their hopes and dreams, but the dedication to the job, you could see it. You know what I mean?
There was
Yeah.
intern beauty pageants, and I read that you actually helped boycott and maybe ended them. So this is the reason why we don't have them anymore. Not good. But no, Howard also got a little. The word woke is ridiculous, but he doesn't do this
Right.
stuff anymore now. But back then he was
Yeah.
still doing it. Tell me how you ended single-handedly the intern beauty
Not
pageant.
single-handedly. I would love to take that credit, but it was not single-handedly. No, we were talking about it, me and the girls. I really just didn't feel comfortable with it. Neither did they. I mean, I think it was just one of those things that would have happened eventually. As you said, like, look at now, you could literally never get away with doing this now. But we were just all like, what if we just say no? Like, what are they going to do? Fire us? We're interns. You know what I mean? So we were like, I don't want anybody taking a laser pointer to my thighs. Not today. Like, it's just, I didn't want to do it. Neither did they. And we just said no. And that was it. It really wasn't as big of a hoopla as we thought it would be. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. I think we all are.
Yeah, and you mentioned laser pointer, so you'd think of Ralph. Did you get any interaction with Ralph? And I know a lot of people are sad about this. Any
Yeah.
chance to deal with him at all?
Really? Yeah, it's sad when I heard about that. I know that they were really close, but I have no Ralph story that I can think of off the top of my head. I've seen him around, but no interaction, unfortunately. But yeah, that was really sad.
The intern show became a thing at this point, so interns are going on and having being part of the show with Steve Brandano. And Was that something you were interested in? Because again, anything that happens anywhere in there becomes fodder for the main show. Tell me a little bit about how difficult that. I mean, I remember there was interns fighting with people. It became part. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yep. So this I do remember. Unfortunately, I don't remember the details of the fight, but yeah, I was on the intern show quite a few times. I wanted to do it again. I think like wanting to be on stage when I was younger, I'm drawn to the lights, I'm drawn to the cameras. So I was like, I want to be on the intern show. But there was a fight that happened between, I want to say one of the interns, two interns, girls, like between two of the other girls. And then I wasn't on the show at the time, but Steve called me while those girls were on the show. And I like mediated and like squashed it kind of. And everyone just I didn't think anything of it, but Steve said that it was like it was great because I was able to like squash the beef, squash the drama. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I was good at that sort of thing.
Now, Steve, I think married MARCI. Now, MARCI's not around during your time, right? Is this right? And are you still friendly with them? And isn't that strange?
Wait,
she came in.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
MARCI came in and supposedly, quote, ruined the show. If you're playing at home, I think people say that. But she was like the consultant that came in. But yeah, I don't even know. And I don't even know if I'm right about it. But I thought Steve actually married her. But I don't know. If you keep in touch with Steve.
I don't. Weirdly enough, the only person that I'll keep in touch with here and there from the actual show is JD because of Instagram. We like stayed Instagram friends, but the others, I don't know. They kind of fell off. And then I have a couple friends like that were other interns that I still see. But yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it.
JD was hitting on you. Is that what you're saying?
Wait, say again?
I said JD was hitting on you. Tell us about JD.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's definitely happened once or twice. But, like, overall, he's actually a very nice guy. Like, no, he's, he gets a bad rep, I think. Not saying he doesn't bring it on himself sometimes. But, no, he's a nice guy.
I could see him trying to work over the interns, though. He seems like that. I don't know him, but it seems like that.
I don't really remember it happening in person, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely said some things flirty, maybe over Instagram and, like, years ago. But in person, I genuinely don't remember him being flirty. Like, he's just not that guy, I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I read it.
Yeah. You're there a couple semesters. Do you see other interns, like, really working their way and trying to impress people? And tell me about those stories. You don't have to name names, but just people coming in and really, and then maybe you see somebody get shot down, which is always even more fun. But I used to work with interns. I loved working with interns as a producer and trying to help. But boy, you get a couple and you're like, okay, this guy or that girl, whatever.
Yeah. So that's actually what the intern fight was about. I don't remember, again, the specific details, but there was one girl who came in and she was just very serious. She was like, I want to be in like broadcast journalism. Like, I wanted this. I'm here to work. I'm not here to fuck around. Excuse me. Am I allowed to curse? I just, I curse. I'm trying to tone it down, but it still slips. But anyway, there was this girl. Yeah, she was very serious about the job, about the internship rather. And I think that was why a fight occurred, because maybe somebody said something like, it's like, lighten up, it's an internship or whatever. And she was like, I'm here to work, I'm not here to like make friends and whatever. But I think that translated into some kind of like just drama between everybody because we felt like she wasn't being nice or something. Again, the details are fuzzy, but I think she was the only one that I could think of that was like really like, I'm here to work. And we were all kind of just like, we're here to work, but we're also here for the experience, So, and we ended up all being cool with her in the end. But yeah, that's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, but I mean, Stuttering John, KC, I guess Gorilla was always an intern, but they've become people that work on the show and become characters, which is right. Stuttering John's still out there doing his thing. You went to Ronnie's block party, like the original one. Like, this is something I kind of don't remember even myself, even as a pretty staunch listener, but was there any weird stuff you can think of from back then? I know a lot of the staff went, and Ronnie's weird, saying inappropriate things. He seems better now in his late 70s, but tell me about those days.
No, it was not, look, it was weird in the sense that I was like, I can't believe I'm actually here. It was funny because at the time he had DJ Louis DeVito DJing the whole thing. And I was like a big club person, like a bass head. Like I loved clubbing when I was younger. So to me, this was like a dream scenario in so many ways. So I remember that being just so random and funny. And I'm trying to remember. I know we were like doing shots, I want to say, in his basement. And there were a lot of weird like artifacts and like just things, you know, cutouts and just posters and just like fun kind of stuff. And there was definitely, we took a bunch of photos with them. I know that much. Those photos exist somewhere, probably on Facebook. Nothing creepy though. It was just like, it was just wild to be there. You know what I mean? But it was a fun time. We all definitely got nice and drunk. It was a lot of the staff that was there. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
So being an intern, you know, is there things that you think people who listen would be like, oh, wow, that happened, or something? Like, is there anything that you saw or heard or thought, wow, that'd be interesting for if you knew that happened, you know?
I'm trying to think, like something like from like the listener's point of view to hear like a behind the scenes maybe of something.
Something like I just, but, you know, I don't know.
I can't think of anything really off the top of my head. I do know there was, I can't remember what the context of this was, but I'm pretty sure that it was either when I was on the intern show or when they brought us in for something. I'm sorry, my memory is such crap. But they brought us in for something. It was me and another girl. And I think somebody started asking questions that were like a little inappropriate. And I just remember Tim Sabian running in and being on like the other side of the glass being like, no, you can't ask them this, you know? So it was kind of like that interesting, excuse me, it was kind of that interesting like turning point of the old Stern show versus the new Stern show. You know what I mean? Like, it's just those things are not allowed anymore. And I think that was like a really pivotal time for that.
Do they let interns in on these pitch meetings? Do you guys get to go in and even if you have an idea, or was that kind of frowned upon at that point?
I don't think that existed. At least it's not to me. I don't remember that ever happening. I wish, but no.
All right. I know you said you keep in contact with JD Instagram. Anybody you still keep in contact with there now that can give you sort of this, how different it is working this remote way, and Howard's at home, and I think there's still guys that come into the office, but it just seems an interesting way that it goes now.
Right. Other than JD, I don't know anybody. I used to, like, back when Facebook was still, I used it more. I was still like, you know, friends with like Richard and Jim Florentine and like all those guys on Facebook. So every now and then, you know, but ever since that kind of went away, I stopped, you know, hearing from them, talking to them. It's just, it doesn't happen. I wish I kind of knew a little bit more about that because it must be so different. I don't know. I feel like I'm glad I got to do it when I did.
You did it. Are you listening now?
Yeah.
Are you a fan of this show?
I mean, I don't listen as much, but I do still listen. Sometimes I'll put it on, actually on YouTube, and I'll like rewatch that way and like see what's going on. But I don't admittedly listen as much as I used to. But you know, he's still a great interviewer. So if he has guests on that I like, absolutely, I'll listen. I'll usually watch it on YouTube.
And we haven't even covered. Have you dealt with Howard more than him giving him his breakfast? Did you ever have any deep talks? I'm sure that doesn't happen, but just any sort of, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, he was really nice. He was shy, I felt like almost. He just seemed kind of quiet, like so much more quiet than I thought he would be. Very thankful for us being there. I think I wrote this in my blog post too, but he came in and he came into the bullpen and he thanked everybody for being there. And, you know, said like he was grateful for us, that kind of thing. When I met him, I forget when I got that photo with him, the context behind it. Maybe I just asked. I have no idea. But either way, it was the same thing. He was just like very nice, very polite. And then I was dating somebody who worked on do you remember Scott Farrell?
Yeah.
Okay. So I dated his producer Lou for like a couple years, back when they were still working together. I don't think they're working together now. But I dated Lou for a little bit. And so I got invited to like a couple events here and there where like Stern people were at. Like I went to Jimmy Palumbo's wedding. And then I went to some kind of holiday thing, I think it was, at a restaurant, and Howard and Beth were there. And I just remember like being near them and saying like, hello, but it was not any like, you know, I wasn't about to, I was much more shy back then. I think now I probably would have struck up a conversation or at least tried to, but back then, absolutely not.
Jimmy and Scott Farrell both guest on this show here. Your show is,
nice.
Yeah, your show is You Both Suck. You have a podcast. So tell me a little bit about everything that's going on with you. I checked this out. Very fun, very just conversational. And it's just, you know, you and a couple guests come on and talk about whatever. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's called You Both Suck. And if you're familiar with the Reddit thread, Am I the Asshole? I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's similar to that vibe. I came up with this idea thinking that I was some kind of genius. I was like, what if we took like regular kind of everyday problems that people have with people in their lives, whether it's a neighbor, a coworker, a significant other, whatever. And it's one of those arguments where you're like not really sure who's right. Like it's not like, oh, he cheated and he's obviously the one who sucks in the scenario. But what if you debate these like kind of weird everyday problems where you don't know who's wrong? And my friend was like, oh, it's like, Am I the Asshole? And I was like, great, okay, I guess this exists. But it's 2023 and I told myself nothing is original anymore, so it's fine. And I came up with the name You Both Suck. And it's me and my co-host, who is a comedian full-time. His name is Kunal Arora. And we actually knew each other from high school. And we just decided to kind of give it a shot. We take listener submissions and people write in with we call them squabbles, like the argument or whatever that happened between yourself and another person. And we debate them on the pod, and we offer some insightful commentary, but also some tough love and a little bit of humor. We like to call it a comedy podcast about conflict. So that's pretty much it.
I had never heard of that Reddit because I am the asshole usually, so I don't have to know. I know the answer to that question. And I'm thinking I should do a podcast that's called I'm the Asshole because, and then show number 1 is... but no, you can get, I got that on Apple iTunes. I'm sure you can get it on Spotify, wherever podcasts are.
Wherever you listen to your podcasts, we are all over it. And we are on YouTube as well. But, you know, our YouTube is small. So, I mean, everything's small. The podcast is new. We only launched a couple months ago. So if people would love to give us a follow or a subscribe, we would absolutely love that. So
yeah, go check that out. I'll link it here in our description. So if you're looking for the shirts and other things, just go to the description. And I found you I think I Googled Howard Stern intern because I was like, wouldn't an intern be interesting? And I saw your blog. So are you still doing some of the blogging and some of I know you have an Instagram page. Everybody's got all these things going on. So tell us about all the other things.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I know. I feel like I have 10 different jobs, but basically I call myself a content creator now because yes, I still have the blog. I still write, but not as much as I used to, admittedly. I've been working on that post that you read actually is from a book of essays that I've been working on. I basically took it from there and just posted it on the blog just to kind of see what the, you know, reaction or traction would be rather. And it's like, you're right. If you Google Howard Stern interns, it's like one of the top ranking like posts. I was kind of surprised. So I still write and I do social media management as well. That's kind of how I make my actual living. I do content creation for other people. So not just myself. I'll do, you know, food photography is a big part of it because my blog was a food blog primarily. So yeah, I wear a lot of different hats, but it's all kind of centered around content creation.
Then stuff that you like to do. I'm in a job that I like. I can't leave it. It's too lucrative, but this is what I would do if I was not. I like this going to a restaurant, say, I'll take pictures of food for you. I'll make sure you get your Twitter out there. I love that idea. Because I'm a 22-year-old. Yeah, I'm a 22-year-old girl. That's what I like to do. I'm an asshole.
I'm like, that's the thing though, is I'm almost 40 and I'm out here doing this, and my competition are the 22-year-olds who do this stuff for a lot cheaper. So you're doing it right with the job that you like, that's lucrative. That's the way to do it.
Well, you work harder and you have more wisdom, so that's where we win as the olds, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I really appreciate the time. I enjoyed our conversation. Anything that we missed that you want to cover, either with the show or kind of what you're up to now?
I don't think so. I mean, I did forget about the hottest regular girl story, but that's in the blog. So if people want to read that, they can. I will take that with me forever and hold on to that compliment. But yeah, I think we kind of covered everything. I don't think I have anything else.
That was in the blog. In case people are wondering, Artie Lange, what came up to you, didn't know that you were an intern, even though you're bringing him his breakfast. So is that right?
So I brought it, but I didn't bring it to them.
Oh.
I handed it to somebody else, and then they gave it to him. So that was why I was like, I get kind of why he didn't know who I was. You know, I wasn't really that offended or anything.
But Artie evidently says, "Hey, we're having a contest, and you can." I don't. So try it.
Good impression. It's exactly how it sounded, pretty much. Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, I know. I was like shaking his hand. I was like, I know. I interned for you, and he was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, it's cool. I'm flattered, if anything. But yeah, so it was fun.
No, I mean it's a great stories. It's got to be fun to look back and know that you worked on a show that, like I said, millions upon millions of people. I still like you. I go to YouTube and I can be entertained. My wife is like, you're watching from 19?" I'm like, it's funny. I haven't seen this. Like I never knew this happened. So
yeah, no, it's really cool to think back and be like, I was part of such an iconic show in history. Like, you know, it's a position a lot of people, I bet, tried for, and you know, I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity. So just thankful.
Yep. Well, I enjoyed the conversation with you, Dara. I appreciate your time. Go to the description, take a look, and you can see all the things Dara has going on. And you can see all the things I have going on with the shirt shop and all the other shows that you can take a look at, and my other channel that I'm still trying to launch a little more. Here's to take a look at that. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.